Today we're joined by a few artists from the exhibition Radiant Reflections, celebrating the beauty of African diaspora, and it aims to be more than just an art exhibition. It is a movement towards recognition, appreciation, and understanding of the beauty of Blackness. Stay tuned for tonight as we celebrate them and their art. So today I would like to welcome Fancy, our curator, and the artists.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us today. My name's Fancy. I am the art curator, and I'll let the artists take turns introducing themselves to you guys as well.
Hello, my name is Monae Brown, and I am an artist based out of Tacoma, Washington. I specialize in acrylic on canvas.
Testing. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm James Wilson III. My choice of medium is oil paint, and I'm showing in Seattle, Frederick Holmes and Company Gallery.
My name is Charde Brown. I'm a self-taught artist, 5 years from out of Tacoma, Washington, and my specialty is oil pastel.
Hi, my name is Charles, originally from Mississippi, living in the Linwood area. I usually specialize in mixed medium, acrylic, resin, glass, and it's fantastic to be here.
This little lady's a little nervous. Can you guys give her a round of applause to loosen her up? I may or may not have given her not a choice to do this. Oh, so I just wanted to let you know I don't want to do the panel. Oh, too bad. You're doing it. Practice makes perfect. Okay, so I want to start the questions off with since the theme of the show is Radiant Reflections, celebrating Black beauty both aesthetically and culturally, I would like to know what the phrase, "my Black is beautiful," means to you.
So to answer that question of my Black is beautiful, I would have to say that being Black and being able to honor and acknowledge what our generations before us have not only been through but fought through for us to be in rooms and places like this today. So their struggles and their achievements are what make my Black beautiful.
To me, that symbolizes basically owning the identity and just the past alone. We've been through a lot as it is, and we're still going through things now. So it's stages like this that, like, it's a blessing just to be able to share my work with you all and just to understand, like, where my artwork comes from, what it symbolizes, and just the message I'm trying to deliver to you all. So.
My Black is beautiful to me symbolizes just kind of how beautiful our differences are that we've struggled to defend as African Americans. And I think with all the differences that we have and that we're able to share, amongst all of you is what makes us beautiful.
I think for me, it is knowing that you have an innate ability to move forward in this world with something that others try to manufacture, to knowing that it's something that was given to you by birth. It's not something that you had to practice. You showed up with it. And to know that you put yourself in these spaces that allows others to also see what you can manifest and see what you can bring into the world other than the typical, and knowing that you are spectacular just by being who you are, and also knowing that your creativity is something that others will try to mimic and call their own when it was something that we were just born with.
Good job.
How have historical perceptions of Black beauty influenced your contemporary art expressions? And can you provide examples from your work, outside of the ones that are featured here today, and works from others?
question?
The first part of the question is, how have the historical perceptions of Black beauty influenced your contemporary art expressions?
So my artwork started off with colored figures, like green and blue and black, as I am a biracial woman. So I wanted my artwork to represent everyone and showing the beauty of seeing the painting. And if you're seeing the green figure, it's not just representing Black or brown or one race, but it shows a picture that you guys can all resonate with, and painting your own picture within the picture that I have painted.
And James, for you and Charles, same question, but more in reference to, I guess, what societal views are around Black men. I think that, like, the last couple years, there's been more positive narratives and images in the media to celebrate Black men, but how has that been as a Black male artist trying to depict imagery that isn't necessarily very commonly seen, and making sure that what you're portraying is also uplifting not just your own imagery, but that of your community?
So my work alone, it already represents, like Black identity, owning what is Black masculinity. Obviously, there's preconceptions of it being aggressive or violent. So obviously, I live that in the stereotypes. So I want my work to, I use young boys as my figures because I know I'm going to capture the innocence of my work. So it allows my viewers to give off their own opinion. Like, what do you think he's thinking? Is it something about the eyes? Is it something about his face? Is it a mean mug? Does he he's hopeful? What do you think of it? So I've always got mixed reviews about my work. My young figures in my last collection, I've gotten people say, oh my God, what has he been through? Or why does he look so angry? Or look at the innocence. Is he happy? And I was like, it's up to you. It's your own interpretation of my work. So there's always going to be that battle of Black masculinity and how I'm living it today. So I use those Black figures because what better than the life I'm living as already. There's already stereotypes and preconceptions of, we live in an America that's it's unbalanced with not only social imbalance, but there's stigmas around how we look based off how we dress or what school we attend or what neighborhood we live in. So I use that in a lot of my work, and mainly I use a lot of faces instead of a whole figure. I want you to think of what did you see in my figures with their eyes or just their facial expression alone.
I recently read an article about how societally, so from the outside looking in, Black children lose their sense of innocence. Black boys by the time they're 8, and Black girls by the time they're 11, because of the way that society perceives them from the outside. So I think that's really cool that you purposely chose young Black male faces to portray in your art. Yeah. Charles?
I often think about being very intentional when I create artwork. One of my favorite pieces that I've created, which will be shown in Tacoma Community College for their Black Artist Exhibition coming up in February. It's a piece of James Baldwin. But it's not enough I could just do a piece of James Baldwin, but I wanted to put words from James Baldwin from his book, The Fire Next Time. So I intentionally burned pieces of paper and to put the quote in there, which is, to be a Black man in this country and relatively awake is to be in a constant state of rage almost all the time. And for me, that's what I kind of embody a lot when I come up with work. I try to be very intentional about what things I put together and how I can. For me, I have to make it make sense. So if I'm going to be putting something out there, I want it to be captivating. I want it to be able to tell the story and have a deeper meaning. Some of the pieces out there, when people look at it and they're like, is that a baby in his hair? Why doesn't the baby have a face? Well, for me, it's a father's protecting his child. And in this world that we live in now, people think that they have license to your information and your family just because they exist. And I start to see often now when people post their child online, they'll put like an emoji or a blur or something on their face because they want to be able to protect their child from this world, from prying eyes, because it should be enough that you know that I have kids. It's none of your business why you don't see them. And it's because I'm protecting mine, and I'm keeping that close to the vest, because there's enough going out in this world that's going to try to tear them down. Like that statistic that Fancy is saying, it makes sense to me because growing up in the South and growing up as a child, you have to grow up faster for some reason, because more than likely you have a sibling who's also has kids, but you're older, so now you have to help take care of them. I shouldn't be 10 years old raising an infant. But that's how it is a lot of times. So by the time you are 8, 10 years old, you don't really necessarily feel like a child. You already know how to cook. You already know how to wash your own clothes. You're probably already babysitting more than one child. And it's like, well, what about me? It's like the onus has already been put on me, and it shouldn't be. And so when I try to think of pieces of work that I want to create, I always try to be intentional and honestly not caring how, if someone takes it the wrong way. It's up for you to interpret. I know what it is for me that I see, but I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm not going to, babysit you, because the world doesn't babysit any of us. So when I want to create the things that I create, I try to make sure that I put my energy and my meaning into it and make sure that it's reflected that same way, whether it's something that has a positive message or whether it's something that just has a real message, because whether you want to say it or not, a lot of the messages that we receive, positive or negative, it still can be based in reality as well. Two things can be true at the same time. And so for me, it's just very important that I try to represent, specific images and try to be true to myself as opposed to trying to figure out what it is I think somebody else is going to like.
Also, another fun fact, speaking of protective fathers, and I also think it's important to share these statistics to counteract the negative stereotypes that I think are just freely flowing in the world for God knows what reason. But statistically, Black fathers have scored highest across the board as far as their involvement in their children's life, protection, the way they spend time with them. They're more, it's more often that they eat dinner with their children, just all the things that we think of what makes a good family. Black fathers have always scored the highest across the board. But again, this is not things that you see commonly shared in the media also. Charde, do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes,
I'm
please.
sorry.
Please do.
Okay. How have historical perceptions of Black beauty influenced your contemporary artistic expressions?
So for me, I started art more so as a form of art therapy, just for myself, just to help me get through some mental health challenges that I was going through. And one of the perceptions that often African American women get is the angry Black woman, because we are very we're deeply expressive whenever we're going through something, and it's often perceived as aggressive. In other words, we're just angry. There's nothing else really going on. We're just angry women. And with me, dealing with what I was dealing with my mental health, there's really a lot more to it. And so I purposely am very bold and very expressive about my mental health journey and the difficulties that I've gone through. Things that most people that are experiencing mental health challenges are probably too afraid to express, especially with Black women. So with me, I purposely do so because it allows me to be expressive, but without having to worry about that judgment. Because with art, it's all more so about what I want to express more than what I want people to see. So, but with that, it's allowed me to be able to relate to a lot of African American women having that ability to be so bold about what it is that we deeply go through. So.
Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that with us. I think it's important to talk about mental health struggles because we live in a world where everyone's like, suck it up and be strong, without really taking into account that your experiences are supposed to impact you. And people who are strong are not the norm, they're the exception. And we should really change views on that and just be a little bit more compassionate. And I think that working with the artists, everyone comes from such a different walk of life that has definitely helped me grow in my, I guess, compassion and understanding of other people because of the things that they've shared through their art throughout the years. So, happy question now. Can each of y'all share, I guess, a moment through your life when you had an experience that your specific art really touched and changed someone's life?
I'm not too sure if it actually changed this person's life, but I just want to talk about the story of one of my pieces that is out there today, which is Sundays, and is the largest piece that is displayed out there for me. But that picture was a real picture of 3 women sitting on a stoop that I came across on Pinterest while I was looking for inspiration of something to paint. And when I seen the picture, it instantly made me think of like grandma's house, cousins, Sunday dinner. They're out on the stairs doing each other's hair, and it's 3 of them. And I instantly knew I wanted to do something with it. I didn't want to just paint it because I'm not a portrait painter. So I did put my own style on it. But after I finished the painting, I had posted it on socials, and it made its rounds. And the women that were actually in the picture reached out to me from Florida. And they were saying, this is me and my sisters, and we took this picture 3-4 years ago during a photo shoot that we did. It was called the Powerpuff Girls, and it was Afro-inspired. And just to know that all the way in Washington, my painting made its way all the way around the internet to the girls that actually took the picture. It was just a beautiful connection through my art that almost like an omen, like, okay, you're here doing what you're supposed to do. You're starting the conversation. You're making those connections through art, which is just a beautiful thing in general.
Okay, I would say my most recent experience, I was a part of a art exhibition in Barbados. Roger Nias, he set up the opportunity for me. He's a U.S. ambassador for, I guess, the States. He was represented in Washington, but his term was in Barbados. So he got my work down there, part of this exhibition. And then a few weeks later, I know he mentioned, or the curator who set up the event, she hit me up and say, oh, there's another U.S. ambassador who's interested in your work. And like, can I set something up? I'm saying, okay. It wasn't meant to be for sale, but okay, let's talk. Not only, it was just now this past Christmas, Roger reached back out to me on Instagram, and he said, James, your artwork has changed my life in so many ways. So I was like, oh my gosh. And then he took the picture of the artwork again in his house in Barbados, even though it's owned by someone else's. His term, the art is gonna stay in his house until the term's over, and then it goes to the new collector. So, and that just made my day. It's the main reason why I do this. I want to change lives. I want to inspire, more my empathy, my vulnerability, and I want people to see what I live and how I share my work. So that was my most inspirational moment and most heartfelt moment.
So one of a moment that I had with one of my pieces was actually the first Black and Bougie event that we had here. I had a piece with 3 Black kids, kind of showing them in a more regal view as part of a series that I currently have right now, feature just mainly Black youth. And I apologize, I don't know you, I forgot your name, but I do remember you. It was an emotional moment for the both of us too, and I think that was the most emotional moment I've ever experienced with somebody who was in love with my art. So I'm not sure if it changed your world, but it meant a lot to me to see how, it affected you. So thank you so much for that. Thank you.
I would say I'm a teaching artist with Urban Artworks, which is a nonprofit organization that does mural apprenticeships for youth in Seattle. And so I teach with them throughout the year for different classes. And they reached out to me real quick. They was like, hey, we need a mural design for the PVA, which is the Paralyzed Veterans of America, because they know I'm an ex-military, I'm a veteran. And they were like, we need something, can you design something for us? We need it in like 2 days. I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, I'm not going to say no, because they're like, we'll pay you this much. Can you get it to us by Monday? I'm like, okay, it's Friday. All right. So I started, researching and thinking up concepts. I specifically go to the Pacific Northwest branch, because they're nationwide, to see exactly what it is that they do, what they're into, and what kind of activities they're into. And I mean, they bowl, they scuba dive, skeet shooting, airsoft shooting, basketball, all that stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, I want something to be specific just for them. They hit me up and they were like, yeah, we tried working with another artist, and this is what he came up with. It was real generic, real cartoony, stars and stripes and flags. I'm like, oh, man. So I'm like, all right, I know I'm not going that route. So I came up with this concept. I wanted to include their mascot, their logo, Speedy, which is a paralyzed soldier in a wheelchair saluting. And then I found all these different images and silhouettes from the Paralympics to incorporate in there. But me being me, I always got to go to nth degree. So I put them in such a way to where the shapes of the persons were symmetrical on either side, and it created wings as well for Speedy, since he was a fallen soldier. And they got with Urban Artworks, and since it was also sponsored by Comcast, they painted it and unveiled it at the PVA's Burien site. Fancy was up in there. And to see all the veterans just come in there like, you the artist? They like, man, this is exactly us. Like, this is what we do. Like, man, I scuba dive, and I see you got somebody, you play tennis. It's like everybody that saw it was just like, man, I gotta shake your hand, because this is exactly what we do. This represents us to the fullest. It's nothing generic. It was specific. I teased when I talked to them. I was like, y'all gonna want some rock, flag, and eagle, which is, they gonna want the American flag in the background. They wanted something specific to the Pacific Northwest, so the mountains in the background. And of course, there's a soaring eagle somewhere. I was joking, but they were like, do you think you could put the mountain in maybe a soaring eagle? I'm like, all right, y'all really on the nose. Found a way to incorporate that. And then I also utilized the shadows of the mountain to put the initials of the PVA in there as an Easter egg, which they didn't see until I told them. And they were just like, man, this is exactly us. It doesn't feel like anybody else's organization. It feels like it's specific to our branch. And to just see all these veterans in there, and they just was lit up, They could sit there and you could easily be like, sulking because of your circumstances. Some of them are quadriplegic, some of them are not, some of them are just amputees. But to see them be able to come into the building and immediately see this big mural sitting on the wall that I was able to create for them, that was everything.
Yeah, that was a really special event, because the paralyzed vets, like he was saying, had a variety of different is it called disability?
Yes.
Okay. You have to be careful with your verbiage these days. So they had a variety of different disabilities. And the center was really cool because they were bringing in new technology from Comcast to help veterans who couldn't use their hands. Mm-hmm. So they had like headphones that had sensors on it that would allow them to use their head as a mouse and click on things. So the way that they reacted to his art and fully just felt represented by his work, in addition to being served by Comcast, was just like a really cool, all-encompassing thing. And I feel like as a collective, that's really what we try to do is, I like to call it artivism. We like to serve the community through art. And like Charde was saying, art is so powerful in the way that it allows people to be disarmed and have the hard conversations and open their minds and open their heart and really create understanding and compassion between one another. And that's the way y'all's art has changed my life. Okay, next question. Thank you, because it's hot. It's hot in here, Sadie. Okay. Okay, this is a good one. Especially for you, Mo, kind of touching about the biracial, I guess, journey. I personally, you know, both of my parents are immigrants. My mom is a Black Panamanian, and my dad's from Mexico. And once I started to work with the artists 5 years ago, I really started to learn a lot about the differences between my Black journey and their Black journey because of my background. And I think that that's really important to understand too, as I have experienced racism, but on the East Coast, because biracial is not really a thing like it is out here. And if anybody has been in the East Coast, is from the East Coast, you understand that when I moved here, I was like, holy crap, there's a whole bunch of me's running around. Like, what's going on? I was the only one in my school, so there was a lot of, I guess, otherness that I experienced as opposed to the racial experiences that my children have already have at their young age. And I think that, I don't know about you, Mo, but like even understanding the privilege that comes with that is important to understand like our role and our privilege in the Black community and how we're able to be seen a certain way or do certain things or even speak a certain way without the negative backlash because of the way we look. And just understanding the privilege and the responsibility that comes with that when you're serving your community and when you're doing work in part of your community. So to that, the question for you, Mo, is, wait, where was it? Okay. How do intersecting identities such as gender, race, sexuality, and socioeconomic status influence your understanding and representation of Black beauty in your art?
Okay, so just touching back onto my original paintings, and again, how the figures are all colored, as in green, blue, pink, mostly doing very bright colors representing chakras. My mother is white and my dad is Black, so my Blackness builds a bridge to a community that I don't get with growing up with my mom, my white mother, and you know, I wasn't until I got older to where I was around my other half of my family, and just being able to understand that being fair-skinned or lighter skinned, I didn't have to deal with the backlash that my darker friends or family had to deal with. And it wasn't until I was put into a situation where it was me being racially profiled that kind of changed my perspective, because I used to have friends that, you know, they would get called out their name. I'm like, why do you let it bother you so much? Like, wipe it off, push it away. Only because I've never been in that situation. So it wasn't until I got into that situation where I had to sit back and realize, like, dang, that made me feel some type of way. Like, they called me that just because the color of my skin, or they said that just because the color of my skin. So when I put that into my art, the series that I did today of all shades, it's not just representing us being brown or Black or light-skinned or biracial, but it's about acknowledging that we are all part of the same community, even though we are different skin tones. So the mosaic-like pieces that I have out there, they all fit together. They're all different colors, but they all fit together into one beautiful picture, because again, we are one big community, no matter the color or darkness of our skin tone.
Okay. James, how do you feel audiences respond to your representation of Black beauty in your work? And have you encountered any surprising reactions, either positive or negative?
Yeah, I think I've gotten a lot of different responses, like I mentioned earlier, how they respond to my figures. I have use of contrast. I allow my figures to just hop into the light, because without the light, you wouldn't be able to see my figures. And I use that because it inspires hope. So most of the time I get, they look pretty aggressive, or they look like they're very sad. And if I can capture that reaction, any reaction out of a viewer or anyone, I think I'm doing my job. But I think just living the Black experience allows me to just tell a story. So with my art, hopefully I'm doing that. And can you ask the question again? There was some more I want to add to it.
Okay. How do you feel the audiences respond to your representation of Black beauty?
Mm-hmm.
And have you encountered any surprising reactions, positive or negative?
Okay. To add to that, nothing other than, you've done really good artwork, and I think that concludes it, actually. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Sadie, off topic, but Marcel's here and doesn't know how to get in the building. Thank you, Sadie. Okay, Charles, since you are our resident encyclopedia / historian, he literally is like a Jeopardy game.
You putting 100 on 10. I do not. I do not be like that.
Play a tune, he'll know it.
Oh my goodness.
Which artists or historical figures or movements have inspired your interpretation of Black beauty, and how do they continue to shape your work?
I would say right off the top of my head, honestly, there's this artist out of Philly called Justin Wadlington. Like, the amount of thought that he puts into his work to really dig and go in deep dive, it's like layers upon layers upon layers. And, I always tried to be intentional about how I create things, but then seeing his work and seeing how much specific intention that he will go to bridge things together, I was like, yeah, I need to do more, because to think that the human mind can go to those type of places and have that level of creativity, it just made me feel like, man, I think I can step it up a little bit more. I can go to another level as well and try to be even more intentional. It just means that now when I start thinking about something I want to create, I have to do a little bit more research than what I was doing before. And so I definitely would say he's kind of like been a really big influence in regards to how I think about creating art now. And, they call him the blind eye artist. He's blind in one eye from an accident when he was a child. He has a documentary. It was on Amazon. I think it's on Tubi now. But he's just really prolific and just dope artist that's just, like, honestly, he's like all world, because he really puts in a lot of thought to his stuff. Like, he'll look at one thing, and then there'll be another thing and 3 other and 4 other things in the background. And you're like, why is the Sword of Omen from Thundercats? And I don't get it. And then he started breaking it down, and you like, I didn't even think anything of that. And a lot of the times in his artwork, he will purposely create, like, he'll have faces in the background, or even some of the images he'll do from a perspective where you can only see one eye. So it'll be a 3 quarter length view, so you can only see the one eye because he only has one eye. So he's even intentional about those type of things. And for me, that kind of like started to change the perception of how I started looking at things, and to make it even more intentional. And just to add on top of that as well, I think for me, when I started really getting back into painting, because that was a long part of me that when I wasn't really doing it, I started to kind of just follow trends and do what other people were doing, you know. Oh, let me paint some sisters. Yeah, people get this, they'll like that. And then I just didn't really find much joy in it because I'm like, I started finding myself only doing it because I thought somebody would like it versus me doing it because I thought I would like it and that I cared about it. And so now I started to transition some years ago to that. I always tell people, I'm like, 80% of it is going to be what I want. That other 20% will be hoping that somebody likes it. It's like, but then in the end, I'm like, I know you're going to like it because I'm dope like that. So it's like, you're going to like it because how much I care about it. And if I care about it like that, then it's going to make other people care about it as well, you know.
As you can tell, he's an excellent salesman as well. Knows how to tell a good story. Charde, this question's from my heart to you. Charde is, you know, again, one of the first artists that I've worked with. And throughout the years, we've had, I guess, like subject matter shows that touch on hard things. Specifically, what year are we in, 25, 20? In 2023, in the summer, we did an exhibit in Seattle called Portrait of a People. And Portrait of a People is supposed to take you through our lineage, but I wanted to start it from our ancestry, not just at slavery, because, you know, our U.S. History Department thinks that that's where they should start our story when we all know that's not where it began. And there was a piece, I guess a time on the timeline that I really wanted to showcase, but I was kind of afraid, like, how is this gonna go over, because it's a really hard subject matter. And it was about Middle Passage. So I really had to pray on it, and immediately I'm like, okay, like the only person that's going to be able to portray this specific hard subject in a beautiful and emotive way is Charde. And one day we gotta bring that piece here to BEMA because she did such a beautiful job, like just looking at that piece brings you to tears, but she still found a way to make it beautiful. So the question for you is, because you are such an emotive artist, how do you balance like tapping into that vulnerability and those emotions and being brave enough to share that through your work?
Well, therapy helps. Therapy definitely helps. And I definitely support it. It allows me to, I can express and feel deeply the things that I need to express. And I feel like that's such a beautiful thing that I don't want to kind of keep that in and box it in. You know, I feel like it's something that it needs to be felt. You need to be able to go through your storms in order to get to the other end. So, you know, with my pieces, they become very emotional for me. And I think with managing my mental health and being responsible about it, you know, like going to therapy and, you know, making sure I'm doing the things that I need to do, you know, self-care and stuff like that, is important when it comes to doing my art, so that it allows me to be able to feel what I need to feel, but I can come right back out of it and, you know, be okay in my mind. So, yeah. Oh. Yeah. I'm still nervous, y'all, so
Well, you did a really
I'm trying
good
not
job.
to add too much.
And last question for me before I open the questions up to y'all is for you, James. James is a new dad. He has a 7-month-old baby, a little girl. I can't wait to snuggle her when she gets here. How has becoming a new father impacted your work?
Man, I understand you don't sleep anymore. You don't sleep.
I haven't slept in 14 years. I know this is true.
But it's so joyful. She gives me so much more purpose. Like, cause I know it's more than me now. I'm working for her. So my work obviously it stems around like young children, the youth, and I think that's where we need to start. Without them, we don't make no changes. And the way the world's looking right now, I'm not really too hopeful. But I just think it starts with the teaching, and it's up to me as a father to guide her and teach her everything she needs to know. She will study art, But there are other things I have in store for her. Off subject, I know it's a little different, but I had a whole, I thought I was gonna have a boy. We waited to the birth to find out what the gender was, and so everyone would tell my wife, oh my gosh, the way your stomach's sitting, you're gonna have a boy. So I'm like, okay, baseball, engineering, tennis. I'm thinking about it all, and then the nurse like, okay, here you are. I was like, oh, it's a girl. Well, congratulations. And I'm like, okay, I gotta be a better father. I gotta be a better husband. She needs to see that in order to know how she should be treated in the world we live in, and the way things are going with social media. And you gotta be very mindful how you think, how you go about your day, and I wanna just structure my life around her and art, and just make sure I have the time for her. That's most important. My job is a job, but my daughter, that's my world, so.
Now the audience will have an opportunity to ask questions. Yes, ma'am? Do you want to stand up so we can hear you?
I'm just curious how Seattle and Tacoma as a community with regards to art schools or art programs or the African American Art Museum, how have they impacted your lives or supported your artistic endeavors? Has it been a nurturing environment for you?
Can I answer that? As y'all's spokesperson.
Feel free.
First of all, we want to have a huge thank you to BIMA. Working with y'all has really elevated and impacted the work that we're doing, because you guys not only support the work that we're doing by allowing us in your space, but you support the work that we're doing financially with your marketing, like your support. Like, we had, I don't know, maybe like 8 to 10 docents show up to help hang the show. I didn't have to pick up not one piece, which was awesome, you know? Not only that, but I've learned so much from Greg along the way. Like, he's just so willing and to freely give his advice and his input. And just you guys allowing us and providing this platform has just been amazing. I'm not gonna like drag the other museum through the mud, but let me just tell y'all that it ain't always like that. It really ain't. And we are so grateful for you guys. And I try to tell as many people who work in other like public organizations, public programmings and museums, that they really need to take a page out of BIMA's book. And furthermore, Sheila, you need to be creating like a digital class for these museums to go through. Residual income from the museum is perfect.
She's not lying, y'all. Like, it's a very, very big difference. Like, you can see the difference between how you guys do things here and other places. It's like you guys care more. Y'all just do. Y'all care more. You give a damn. All right? For lack of a better word, you give a damn. And other organizations, they just think they're going to get by on their name. And that ain't enough. Kendrick told y'all it's not enough. But it's a significant difference between here and people be looking like, really? Bainbridge Island? What's out there? I'm like, they show up. Like, seriously, they show up. The community supports what's going on, and they love it. Like, the museum is beautiful. They always have dope exhibits. And then if we bring something to them, they're willing to listen and try to figure out a way to make it work. Other places, they gotta, it'd be a bunch of bull. It'd be like, they don't really care like that. They just want to go off their name and just keep doing the same old, and it's not like that out here. And I think, for me, it really is, I tell people like, yo, it's a big art community in the Seattle, Tacoma area. You just have to know where to look, honestly. You got to find them. You know, when I first moved up here, it was like I had blinders on. And then when my sister moved up here a couple years later, first thing she was like, you got to find your people. You got to find where they are, because I was living in the U District, and then I think I lived in Kent for a minute, but it's like, I remember just looking around like, man, where are all the black folks? But that's before I knew about how much they redlined everything as well. Northwest African American Museum had an exhibition on redlining in the Seattle area, and seeing how they've started pushing people further and further south, which you could see that when you start going into those areas. Now, when you go into the Auburns, the Federal Ways, anything south of the CD, you're like, oh, here's where everybody is. That's why folks look at me like, what you doing way up in Linwood? They act like I'm in Canada. My goodness. Like, we the same distance from Seattle. Stop it. But it really is, it really is a dope art community. But then at the same time, it's one of those things that based on who your organization is, based on who you partner with, people will show up. You know, if they know you have a reputation for putting on stellar events, for having, you know, premier artists, dope artwork, and just basically putting everything out there to where they can enjoy themselves, they'll definitely show up and support. But being able to come to spaces like this that's out of the way, you know, I'll tell people, I love taking that ferry ride. I'm going to get on the ferry and then hop on over here. I mean, it ain't nothing. And just watch how everybody just shows love. And for me, I was telling them, I'm like, shoot, I'm ready to go home and start figuring out what to do next. Because when you come out here, you just start getting inspired, you know, about what you see, about the artwork, about the exhibitions that they put in there. And they just start putting ideas in your head about, damn, man, I wonder what I'm going to do next. You know, so for me, it's awe-inspiring, and like seriously what Fancy's saying, like y'all need to figure out some way to share what y'all do here with other people, other museums, other organizations, because they're just not on the same kind of time.
I also would like to add to that. It's kind of sounding like you're asking if we have like a safe space almost between the art community between Tacoma and Seattle, and we are the safe space. Fancy is creating that. She is building that with the collective that we have going on, the artists we are growing all the time. Fancy finds people. I don't know how she found me.
She likes speaking to strangers.
Yes, but Fancy is creating that. What do you do? Let me see. And she'll call you out. She'll know that's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the A-team. She'll tell you that all the time. We have the A-team with us today. So yeah, Fancy's creating that. That's what she's doing. She's bringing us together. She's building the gap between Bainbridge and Bellevue and Tacoma and Seattle, and we're from all over. So I feel like this is the start of that.
Fancy, I want to say thank you again. You know, I met Fancy at one of my shows during Art Walk in Seattle, and we talked for a minute after we discussed a piece of mine, and then she kind of told me what she does, and I was like, oh, well, I'm interested. If that allows me to get more representation across the pond, whether it's north or south, I want to be there, and she included me in the show, and I'm more than grateful and thankful for you. So thank you for everything you do.
I wanted to add to that as well, too. Thank you, Fancy, for being able to provide us a space to even be in spaces like this. So we love you.
I love all y'all. Does anyone else have any? Yes. Hi, Kate. Hi there. Kate helped hang the show. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Great show. I have a question for Charde Brown. Thank you for your comments. They made me start to think about some of my own practice. When I'm angry or sad, I paint in really somber, dull colors. You use very saturated, strong, bright colors. So did you have to work toward that palette, or did you start with those wonderful colors?
I had to work my way up to them. When I first started painting, my paintings were very dull, very dark colors. I don't know at one point I started with the vibrant colors, but like my color palette is very serious to me when it comes to each of my pieces, and I plan them out very specifically depending upon what it is that I'm feeling and kind of what colors, you know, will blend well together to be able to express what it is that I'm, you know, feeling or wanting to express. So it took some practice getting there, because my colors were very depressed, a very depressed palette when I first started. So yeah, it just took a lot of practice for me, a lot of research, and just kind of, you know, being influenced by other artists too that I've seen as well. So
You ended up in a great spot.
thank you, appreciate it, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say somebody up here said it was a privilege for you to be here. It's a privilege for us to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question? Yes, ma'am?
I totally bless everyone who's been asking questions. My question is, was there any music, musicians, ensembles that you listened to, maybe now, but in the past, that kind of brought you a little more into your creativity?
I'll answer.
Could you repeat the question?
The question is, was there any, musicians, ensemble, that maybe they grew up on or they listen to now that kind of keeps them in that sense of creativity?
For me, since the beginning of me painting, I've always listened to I listen to a lot of lo-fi. Basically, what lo-fi is very, and it's different genres as well. But it's basically music that has a lot of feeling and emotion to it, but it's expressed without words. So it's literally just melodies, beats, rhythm, and stuff like that. It helps me kind of stay in the zone where it doesn't take away from my thoughts, but it allows me to kind of really pierce into what I'm doing and be able to still feel through the music, what it is that I'm trying to express on canvas.
I would say it's like a concert when I'm creating art. So depending on the stage, if it's detail staging, I'm listening to saxophone music, some jazz, because it's very detailed. So I don't want to make any mistakes. I got to be very calm and collective. But when I'm throwing the paint around, maybe it's like a motif or a background or even just a sketching stage, that's my most egotistical moment, because I'm laying down the blueprint and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this. So I'm listening to some Kendrick Lamar, I'm listening to some The Weeknd. These are R&B artists or even hip hop artists, and so it's just the rough stages of my art. It comes in processes. So.
I'm a Netflix and chill girl. I don't have music playing most of the time when I'm creating. I like to put on a movie or a series or something that's going to get me through. I know I'm going to be sitting here for hours, so it kind of helps me gauge time of watching a movie or just having something play in the background. I have done a piece, though, to a certain song, and it was not a famous song or anything like this, but I have a friend that does music, and they wanted a poster to go with their song that they were releasing. So I have done something where I've listened to a song multiple times and then kind of put that song into a visual. So I have done something like that, but most of the time it's a movie or something in the background.
I find that weird since you're a literal lyricist and you don't listen to music when you're painting. Yeah, you guys, she's a dope ass rapper. You may or may not want to Google her on YouTube and see her stuff on there. One of these days I'm gonna have her perform, but she's really dope, really dope.
She'll be here keeping hidden talents.
Yeah, right.
Expressed with words before I picked up the paintbrush.
Words? No.
Yeah, but could never really catch the beat when I got in the studio, so painting it was.
For me, it kind of is a combination, because I definitely feel you on the Netflix and chill. I will literally put on a YouTube video and I'll just go, because for me, it's just, I need some sort of ambient noise. I just need some sort of noise in the background, or I'll put on the Bernie Mac show. I've seen that I don't know how many times, but it's just to have something for me. It's something that I know is joyous to me. So it makes me laugh, it makes me smile. So I don't have to even watch it. I can just sit there and paint, because I'm laughing at it as I'm painting, and it's getting me in the mood to keep going, because all it's doing is making me feel good. But then, depending on the kind of piece, I'll sit up there and I'll put on Miles Davis. I have some Miles Davis records. Only thing with having a record play is that eventually you're gonna have to get up and stop it. So I'll bring on the YouTube album and sit there and listen to a compilation of an hour or so. When I was doing that nib piece, I'm up there listening to Victory Lap, so I'm prolific. I'm the type that's gonna go get it. No kidding. Sitting on the steps feeling all right, man. Listen. So it's it all depends. A lot of times I can just put on anything in the background, but if if I'm feeling like I need that extra inspiration to like trigger something, then I'll put on that specific type of music or that specific type of artist as well if I want to go to a specific kind of place for that artwork.
Charles is also a wonderful singer. He has a beautiful voice, although he told me he'll never perform in public, which kind of ticks me off because it's like rude for you to be, you know, not sharing that gift with everybody around you.
It's not rude to just, I do it for myself, okay? My mama does enough singing for everybody in public. I do it for myself.
One day I'm going to record you and blast you on the internet.
Well, I mean, if you do, I'm going to be like, how you going to do that? But man, I sound good.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions? You like, yes?
I guess this is kind of like a general question for all of you, but are you facing any blocks or frustrations in your work? And if you are, how are you pushing past those frustrations?
Oh, my goodness. Man, writer's block is one thing. That artist block is a whole nother beast. My goodness. I mean, I'm sure we've all stopped a piece and put it up, and it'll be sitting there for a month or 2, 3, 4, and then you just kind of move to the next thing. Like a lot of times, if I have an idea about something, I'll text myself. I'll text the idea to myself so I don't forget it and be like, okay, like I got this idea for these Buffalo Soldiers painting I want to do. It's like text it to myself so I don't forget it, because I'm telling you, you'll be in the middle of something, and a lot of times when I do a painting, I don't have a background because I don't know what I want it to look like. I know a lot of people start with the background first. It's like, I don't know. I know what I know. This main thing, I'm on it. I want to get this so I can get it. And then next thing you know, I'm like 3/4 way done. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this background at all. I have no idea. So I'll step away from it, leave the house. You know, if there's something going on, an art walk or something, you know, go check that out and maybe get some inspiration that'll trigger something in me. But that, it really does happen. And I mean, it happens quite a bit. If I'm working on a painting and I can't figure it out, then I'll just start sketching something new, and then maybe something will come from that inspiration as well. But yeah, it definitely happens. You can put a piece away and that thing will be gone for a year, and then next thing you know, it's like, God darn it, I got it. And then you just bring it back out, you know. But yeah, it definitely happens, but it's just one of those things you got to work through. I usually just say step away from it, or probably, you know, start thinking of sketching on something else, or just go take a breather.
With me, I definitely get a lot of artist block, not writer's block. But my solution is creating another piece. I generally have a lot of ideas that go floating in my head, so it's like I have to get them out. So I'll have like a plethora, like pile of sketch canvases of all these different ideas, and so whenever I'm stuck on one piece, I always have another piece that I can go to, and so on. So my last artist block, it lasts for about a good year. So you can only imagine so many paintings. But once I came back to it, it's like all these ideas started floating and imageries and colors, and so it's like I had so many that I could just go back to. Now it's like I don't have any artist block. I haven't had it for a while. So yeah, that's my cure for it.
I think most of my artist block stems from either palette choice or scale. How big do I want to go? How small it's going to be? And usually the reaction I had for like maybe the previous piece of a collection, how people react. Oh my God, it has to be better than the last one. So a lot of it comes from that. I got one that's been sitting in my closet since I think last August, and it's like the collection was If There Was a Place Called Orange. And the first 3 paintings, 4x4 feet, 1 3x4 feet, they did really well in gallery, and I just got to get back to that last one in the closet. And I think sometimes it could be intimidating working on large scale paintings, but other than that, I have a whole phone of like ideas, like references or paintings I've already started, and I just got to get around to. But every day is a new art journey for me. I'm constantly texting myself, like you mentioned, Charles, titles. Titles is how I start a painting. I could think of something, and it's like, oh my God, that's a beautiful title. I just gotta make something around that, or even a collection title. How many pieces is it gonna be? 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, and it starts from there. It's just like, as an artist, I know we all go through it. Like, we're always thinking about numerous ideas and which one we're gonna really incorporate on canvas or whether it be paper. So artist block is just one thing, but you just gotta move past it and just trying to, I think with this current collection I worked with for this actual show, Fancy, I was a little upset with her for a little bit in my head because I was like, how do I incorporate Starry Nights? That's another master and that's not my style, but it's really, what does the painting mean to you? So what it meant to me is hope. And that's why I incorporate hope within my work.
I would say that my artist block probably stems mostly from not really having my signature style. So I have a few different series that all look the same, but I don't really have that signature style where you can go up to one of my pieces and be like, oh, that's Monae. Like, we know that's Monae because it's her drippy people, or we know her from her mosaic styles, or I feel like there's artists out there that have that one style that when you see their piece, you're like, that's him. And, you know, like that, no doubt about it. I feel like I still haven't really found that. I'm more of just like my color palettes all being the same and having the bright colors. So when I start to get the artist block, I just start on a new series. I'm like, okay, well, I'm still searching for my style. So let's try something different. Let's see how I feel about doing the mosaic style pieces after I did the drippy pieces, or just like them, though, I have a whole notes in my phone where I do the titles and the compensation. So I will put in there, and once I do artist or have some artist block coming, I'll just go down my notes and I'll be like, okay, well, you know, I had this idea 5 months ago. Let's bring it to life. But I don't know, just keep pushing through. Not every painting has to be posted. Not every painting has to be for sale. Not every painting has to be in a gallery. Most of your artwork is for you, so even if the piece is not coming along, I just say finish it. You don't have to put it out there for everyone else. Just embrace the painting as your own and move on to the next thing.
Now, I don't obviously make art. I do, but I will never show them. But for me, the creative block happens often, but I think being a part of the collective is helpful because especially the girls, I feel like men are naturally problem solvers. So sometimes when I have an idea, I'd rather share it with the girls because I don't want to hear the holes in what I just said. Like, we're going to have the art show on the moon and just watch it happen, you know? But the gals, like, it could be like midnight and I'll text them some crazy shit that I thought of. And they're like, yeah, and then you could do this, and then you could add this, and then this. I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's gonna take us 5 years, but we're gonna do it. Right? The boat, the ferry. Oh, you guys, I'm not gonna tell you the full, because immediately you'll understand the genius and try to steal my idea. And that ain't happening. But
keep
just
it close
having,
to the vest.
Yes, exactly. But having other like creatives and artists to work with and bounce ideas off of, who can see, I guess, like what you're working on from a different perspective, and even come alongside and add a lot of value to what you're already doing, I think is really helpful also.
Not even gonna lie, I feel attacked because when she said that, I
talking
called the
about
girls.
him. I
called the girls, and they just be with it. I know because me and her are talking. I be like, but how? Just go with it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but we can't breathe up there. So where we gonna get the equipment from, Fancy? I'll figure that out.
Yeah.
I'm like, so, all right, go
You're
ahead.
telling Charles, no, that's why we brought you the idea, figure it out.
Yes, exactly. But what about this? That's not my problem.
Fancy will definitely be like, look, you worry about the other stuff. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm with it.
Does anyone have any other questions? Yes, sir.
First, thank you for coming. It's been wonderful. So much of the conversation has positioned your work in a broader conversation around the racial representation, a certain racial politic. I don't want to impose an idea of what you want your work to mean, but I guess my question is, what do you see as some of the risks or dangers of presenting your work in a predominantly white space? whether it's Bainbridge or elsewhere. You're all operating in the Pacific Northwest, so this environment is not new to you. But I'm wondering if you can sort of speak to that, because this is not a neutral space, right? This is an undefined space. You're presenting your work in a space that's pregnant with cultural and political meaning. And I wonder what you see as some of the risks and challenges presenting your work in that space.
I'll flow with it. Honestly, I don't even think about it, because I look at it like this. We're all adults. We're all grown. I'm from Mississippi. I don't have time to hold your hand. I'm not going to sit there and baby you into a point where it's like, what? That still happens in 2025? I'm like, come on, man. We can't be that naive. It's like the first thing I'm going to do is I'm coming in good faith. Now, if you don't perceive it as that or receive it as that, then that sounds like a personal problem for you, because I'm not coming in a way to be malicious. I'm coming to display my artwork. I'm coming to present an idea, something that I came up with in a way that I saw fit. Now, art is always open to interpretation. And I know that whatever you create, some people are gonna look at it this way and that way. I know what I want from it when I create it, but I'm not going to put something out there and be like, oh, I'm sorry for putting it out there. I try to make sure, as I said before, that I create with intention and that I'm, on point with my ideas and how I want it to be represented. So as much as you may have, ultra sensitive people that want to censor everything, it's like, no, this is coming from my brain, this is coming from my heart. I'm going to put out the work that I want to put out. And if you want to receive it in good faith, then by all means. If you don't, then by all means. That's totally up to you, but I don't have time to worry myself to death about, man, I hope I don't offend somebody. It's like, if you come in good faith, then you should leave in good faith. I'm not coming to harm or be malicious, but I am coming to be myself. And if being myself is harmful to you, then you got something to figure out within you. That's not on me.
I would say that we all up here probably feel like there could be any type of risk, but there's risk with everything you do. We don't care about the risk when it comes to pulling up and representing our Blackness and where we are at and wherever room we're coming. We are in the Bellevue Art Museum in a predominantly white neighborhood. They come in all the time. They voice their opinion. They tell us that it's not inviting. They tell us that, we're not inclusive and we're not including everybody, but there's multiple places, restaurants, stores, schools that we are not included in. We don't go in and feel uninvited. We come in and we show up black and bold. So I feel like whether there's risk with it or not, there's risk with everything, and we don't care. We just don't care. We're gonna come in and we're gonna show up as who we are and what we stand for. And just like Charles says, if that makes anybody feel uncomfortable, we're only being us. We're not doing anything other than representing, painting beautiful art that represents a culture that we come from. And if that hurts anybody's feelings, then again, it has something to do internally with you guys or with whoever is feeling that way.
And to add to that, well put. I know my story is going to always be different from them, but we wear the same shoes practically. And I think that's exactly why I do what I do, because the lack of black representation in the museums and the galleries. And I remember one of my mentors, I went to his show in Seattle, and we talked about where he shows his work, Orange County, New Mexico, other parts of California, Washington, and we had a discussion about, I would love to get down there to Orange County, and he's like, James, they're pretty pro-right-wing, so they don't tend to favor your work down there. And I'm like, oh, wow, and then he gave me some ideas on some certain other galleries, like black-owned galleries Midwest, and he's like, I think you would work well with these galleries, and I don't want to just be a black artist, I want to be seen as an artist. I create beautiful work. My story is to be shared with others, and it sucks that we're still, limited in ways like that. But even more so, we have more opportunities now, thanks to some of the great names like a Basquiat, Kende Wiley, some of my favorite artists, and thanks to them who paved the way, we have more opportunities. Fancy, what she's doing, creating more opportunities for us, and that's one thing I greatly appreciate. So.
Me personally, I'm a risk taker when it comes to my art. I do what I do on purpose. Like Mo said, we don't care. I personally, I like to spark the conversation, especially when it comes to mental health. I don't think it's a conversation that should be shied away from. I think there needs to be a better understanding of it. And if my art is able to spark that conversation, whether it be negative or positive, I'm all for it, because I think it's something that needs to happen. So I love taking the risks, and whether it be good or bad, I'm still going to create what I create. So.
Also, one more thing. I feel like if we worry about those risks, it takes away from our joy that we get to even be here and be in rooms like this or in museums like this. If we were worried about what everyone was going to think, then it would take away that joy of us even being able to have these opportunities.
And we'd have major artist block. Major artist block.
And if you don't tell your story, somebody will tell it for you.
Yeah.
Because we all know as artists, there are plenty of artists that are not black that all they paint are black faces.
Yeah.
And they make millions of dollars off of it.
Yeah.
And of course, for me, I always look at it and be like, so you mean that's all you paint is black faces? You from, like, why? Like, you don't like, Tom Hardy, or you don't like Brad Pitt, or you don't find any of these, I mean, like, why? Like, what's the obsession? Because that's the type of thing that I think about. It's like, why is that such a subject matter for you? Like, what makes you so attracted to the melanin, And now I'm gonna do a whole solo show of melanated faces when I have, blonde hair and blue eyes. I don't get it. I often question that, because those are the type of people I look at and be like, so what's your story? What's your aim? Why is this so important to you to do that?
For me, as the curator, A, I don't care, like Mo said, and B, I welcome the challenge. I actively go out of my way to find organizations that are very non-black focused and challenge them. Our partnership with the Hyatt, we have our huge annual showcase coming up on February 16th called Black Makers and Creatives. We'll have visual artists. James, you should totally sign up. Visual artists, performance artists. We're gonna have AI art. We have a fully run fashion show. And that partnership simply came out of the fact that I realized, like, these people, this specific organization is benefiting so much from the Renton community that's historically black, but all the pockets of black communities within Renton are struggling. Specifically, their school districts, their inequitable practices in hiring, their healthcare, all the things. And I just hit them up like, hey, my guy, like, what have you guys done for the community lately? Nothing. What have you specifically done for black people? Because Black History Month is in 30 days. Oh, nothing, but we're thinking about, okay, cool, well, I have this idea, you have the space, you have the money, let's make it happen. Again, like here with BEMA, it was more of a joyous collaboration because they've always made us feel welcome. So the idea to curate in the museum and just ask for the ability to do so, it wasn't as, I didn't approach it like ready for a fight. Like with the Hyatt or even with Bellevue Museum of Art or other large white organizations that we work with, when I approach them, I'm prepared with statistics and facts. Like, say something, I'm already ready to come back with some shit that you can't even dispute. Because it's facts, historical facts. And I love holding them accountable. I love making space for us in spaces that weren't meant for us, because none of this shit was theirs in the first place. Like, we have to also remember that everybody is an immigrant here unless you're of Native descent, And the mindset of feeling like we don't belong someplace I think also I don't really struggle with that because my racial background, because I moved around so much, like I never really belonged anywhere. So that also helps me talk to strangers and really, I guess, see things from a different perspective. Like, oh, like this space is not welcoming, right? But they have money and resources, and they claim this and they claim that. I'm gonna exploit that and make them be honorable to what they say they are. Like DEI, show me how, and back it up with the dollars, just period. So I think that's all we're gonna do because it's 4/16, and I still have to. Yes, ma'am.
What is the date at the Hyatt Hotel?
Oh, February 16th.
Thank you.
I don't know where Sadie is, but I'm gonna send her the digital flyer so she can send it out to all y'all. So we'll take a little break. The party starts at 5, and I still have to get some of my beautiful artists that just came in here, their portraits. But thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you for all the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you all.